Mathios, thank you so much for joining Egypt Oil and Gas Talk, and welcome to Cairo. And I'm sure after the COVID crisis, it's good to have you back physically since our last meeting together virtually. So thank you for joining us, and we're happy that we're going to have this talk with you.
Well, thank you very much. It's absolutely fantastic to be back in Cairo physically, although I managed to travel a couple of times during the COVID crisis, but it's fantastic to be present in this great show. I get the feeling that it's a lot more vibrant and energetic, even from the last show 2 years ago, with a lot of attendance, with very high quality meetings, and with a lot of value for us as sponsors of the show.
Yes.
Getting a lot of value out of our meeting, our presence, and most importantly from the feeling that I see in the industry, which is shifting and it's changing compared to what it was last year.
Yes, absolutely. We totally agree with you. So, Mathios, I want to go straight and take your thoughts on being a company with major investments in the Mediterranean, in the East Mediterranean. You play a significant role in the natural gas supply from different countries within this region. Give us your thoughts on the East Mediterranean gas forum that was recently established, and how do you see this forum playing a role within this region? How also you see companies like yourselves playing a role within this forum?
Well, the East Mediterranean is a very unique place, and in order to operate in the East Mediterranean, you need to understand both the rocks, the subsurface, but also the geopolitics. And Energean is a unique company that is operating in Israel, Egypt, Italy, Greece, and the Balkan countries. So we have a very good overview of what is going on in the whole region, which is very much the analog of what the EMGF, the East Med Gas Forum, is trying to achieve. So the regional cooperation to bring infrastructure and allow gas to flow from the East Mediterranean to the region and possibly into Europe is extremely important. We are investing $3 billion in the East Mediterranean. And for us, the East Mediterranean is the core area, it's a focus area. We're bringing a new FPSO that will start producing later in the year. In Israel, we're investing in Egypt, $250 million on the NEA development. We're investing in Italy, we're investing in Greece. And most importantly, we're drilling another 5 wells next March, starting in a month, that hopefully will discover another 100 BCM. So the East Mediterranean Gas Forum is an extremely important forum for us, for the region, that will facilitate the cooperation between countries, companies, to create the infrastructure that's required, and the regional cooperation to bring this gas into Europe. Because what we see now, and it's a very interesting dynamic, is that Egypt and Israel took a view all along that natural resources should be exploited today.
Yes.
They promoted investment, and if you look around you from this show, President Sisi, His Excellency Minister El Molla are very supportive of this industry, and that is attracting investment, increasing production, and being able to export gas to the world. Opposite to that, countries in Europe took a very different view, driven mostly by ESG pressures, to stop investment in the upstream sector. Result: gas prices in Israel and Egypt have been kept low. Gas prices in Europe have skyrocketed.
Yep.
So the strategy of investment in gas as a transition fuel to the future is absolutely the correct one. We've seen very recently the European Union include gas as a green fuel, obviously in a transition phase to a greener future. But this is something that Egypt has supported all along. So the East Med Gas Forum is bringing all this together. It has to become a forum that leads into actions and investments and not just discussions and politics. So I look forward to continuing our involvement in the forum and pushing the agenda, which is pretty much defined now, which is to create the vehicles, the infrastructure, the investment to bring gas and make countries, the region and Europe less dependent on other sources of gas.
Absolutely. mentioning that you did say that the EU now recognizes natural gas as a green commodity, green energy source within the transition phase, and with the establishment of the East Mediterranean gas forum, and with the infrastructure that Egypt actually has within the Mediterranean, the LNG facilities, how do you see Egypt playing a vital role in becoming an energy hub?
Every meeting I go to with every minister, I hear the same story.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be the energy hub.
Exactly.
They all want to be the hub.
Exactly.
So to be a hub, you need to have the resource, you need to have infrastructure, and multiple entry and exit points. So Egypt is uniquely positioned for this, because Egypt already has the natural gas network, it has the LNG terminals, it has gas production, and it has connections with Israel, Jordan, and through LNG with the rest of the world.
And there's a pipeline between Egypt and Cyprus that's being, I think, that's going to be built very soon.
Discussed.
Yeah, discussed. True.
So there's an existing route that connects Egypt with Israel through Jordan. There's the EMG pipeline. There's other investments that we are talking about implementing. So I think what is important here is to see Egypt as the player that will be the aggregator of gas, and then the exporter to the rest of the world. So Egypt is in a unique position to do that.
Yeah.
Egypt is a market that is growing. The population is growing. Energy demand is growing. There needs to be further investment, but the way to look at this business and this area is not just from a country perspective, but look at it from a regional perspective.
Yes.
All countries need to cooperate. And we have seen a huge shift in the last years. I remind you that in Israel, we have now seen investments from the UAE, which is something that many years ago would have been unheard of. We have now seen discussions about Israel linking with other countries as well. So the East Mediterranean is a safer place today. It's a place where investment is welcome in the region. And of course, Egypt is in the forefront, because Egypt is leading this effort. And we can see this, again, from the support that we see for the sector, from the president himself, from the minister, his teams, EGYPS, EGAS, are all extremely supportive, and this is what is attracting investment. So Egypt can play the role of the aggregator, the exporter, and the country that attracts investment in the region.
Great. Going to the dilemma of energy transition, net carbon zero. You were the first company that did announce to be a net zero company. Why did you? Was that a right call for you at that time? And where does that stand within your strategy and portfolio today?
Well, 5 years ago, we saw the pressures coming. The first thing we did was to move our business from being 100% oil to an 80% gas business.
Yes.
So we moved into the right direction.
True.
Then we took a decision to commit to a net zero future, because I believe that that is the only way, not only for us as a business, but as human beings, to get to a better future and leave a better planet for our children. Some people accused us in the beginning, well, 2050, you will probably be retired at 85 years old, you will not be around. So you made a commitment that you won't be there to see.
Yeah.
So making the commitment was the first step.
Yeah.
What this allowed us is what I call to have a license to operate. Because international investors, and I remind you, we're a company listed on the London Stock Exchange, where all the international funds are demanding from companies to have net zero strategies. Otherwise, they're uninvestable.
Yeah.
So it was partly because we believe in this being the right strategy, but partly it is driven by investors that want to see us be a net zero business and a net zero industry. But it's not enough to talk and make commitments. We actually moved to reduce our carbon intensity, which we have reduced every year. We're setting targets, we're monitoring our emissions, we're reducing our emissions, and we have a target to reach about 6 to 7 kilos of CO2 per barrel produced, which is less than half what the industry is producing today. So I think what is important is to look beyond the words and look into the actions.
Yeah.
Because as an industry, we haven't done a great job to defend and explain the role that the oil and gas industry can play in this transition phase.
Yes.
So our industry is the only industry that has the technology, financial capability to move countries and the world into a net zero strategy, because this is not just about driving electric cars. Of course we need to drive electric cars. Of course we need to move to cleaner forms of energy, renewables, solar, wind, geothermal, everything that we can do.
Yeah.
But it's heavy industries that need solutions. If you own a cement factory, if you own a refinery, if you own a power station that burns gas, and you want to get to a net zero position, you need to capture your CO2, you need to store it somewhere. That's the only way to continue producing. And I think COP26 was a great example of misaligned strategies between Western Europe and the US and the rest of the world. We heard that in the conference.
Yeah.
We heard that by ministers from the African continent that
Sure.
said, we need to develop, we need to have our own green agenda and our own green strategy, but it cannot be dictated by just
Absolutely.
others.
Absolutely.
So the transition has to be just. Just meaning transition has to be fair for people that have not seen the quality and the standards of living that we've enjoyed in our parts of the world.
Sure.
And to oblige people to move away from hydrocarbons, because it's nice for us that live in Europe, in London, in Paris, in New York,
Yeah.
to drive electric cars. Yes, we do need to drive electric cars. I own an electric car. And when I bought it, people were saying, well, you are an oil and gas guy. Why do you drive an electric car? Well, electricity doesn't come from a plug.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to produce this electricity.
Sure.
So I think it is important, and I think we are seeing a reality check
Yeah.
right now. And I am seeing a big shift in the last 2 years. I've attended a number of conferences in Europe, in London. 2 years ago, the only topic of discussion in conferences was ESG.
Yes.
Nobody was talking about investment. Big organizations changed the names of those conferences to take the word oil or petroleum out even of the name of the conference.
Yeah.
EGYPS is still EGYPS. It's Egypt Petroleum Show.
Yes.
And you look around you.
Yes.
Fantastic success, great result, thousands of people ready to do business and invest. So I think now politicians are starting to understand that we do need to get to the goal, but we need to do it in steps, making sure we have energy security, make sure that we have affordable energy, and making sure that we do it in a fair way to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
Because we don't have the right
True.
to dictate to people that haven't seen the benefits of what we have.
Yeah. It has to be done practically in a way that it, as you said, supply of energy, security of energy supply is always exists. Because if it doesn't exist, then you're gonna have another bigger problem, which does not have to do with COP27 or COP30 afterwards, which is practically what you're saying, totally. And it is a bit terrifying seeing how the energy transition in all the major companies is happening so fast, suddenly, without understanding how that's going to happen. So, and we always say, if we're part of the problem, we should be part of the solution. So how can the oil and gas industry be part of the solution? In COP27, hosted in Sharm el-Sheikh here in Egypt, how can we support the Egyptian government as a sector in showing what this industry can do in the long term in the energy transition format? What's your thoughts on that?
First of all, we have to be honest with each other. And if you look at the front page of the websites of a number of the oil and gas companies, you would think that they are lifestyle companies or travel companies.
Yes.
Nice green mountains, children playing, etc.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's our duty to bring gas to help reduce the reliance on coal. And this is exactly what we're doing in Israel.
Yeah.
Our investment in Karish is allowing the Israeli government to shut down the coal-fired power generation and switch to gas, making a huge impact to the environment and a huge reduction of CO2 emissions. This is the first thing that this industry can do. Reduce the reliance on coal, bring cleaner forms of energy, which is gas.
Yep.
The next thing that this industry can do is apply the technologies that we have been developing all these years, managing reservoirs, drilling wells, putting big projects in place to find solutions to decarbonize further the economy.
Yeah.
And these are big projects that need know-how, funding, and management capabilities, which this industry has. So we need to find solutions, and I think in COP27, which is hosted by Egypt, as you said, we need to be giving the Egyptian government ideas, solutions, and tools, and we're working on this.
Excellent.
How we can convert Abu Qir, the field that we operate, into the first carbon storage site in Egypt.
Oh, excellent.
How can we bring that into use for nearby industries that need to store their carbon? These are the kinds of things that the industry can do. Now, there's a cost to that.
Yeah.
And I think the world needs to understand and accept that if we want to move to a greener future, there is going to be a cost.
Yes.
It doesn't come for free.
Absolutely.
And in our view, in my view, we cannot put financial decisions ahead of saving the planet. The direction of travel should be we decarbonize, we reduce our reliance on polluting fuels, and then when we get to the point where we need to move further, we capture and store CO2 to allow the world to move in a practical way, as you very correctly said, into a greener future.
Excellent.
That is what we need to do, and this industry can do it.
Yeah.
Now, this industry is also not doing, as I said earlier, what it should in terms of communicating these messages, explaining to the public that we all need to change. It's not enough for the oil and gas companies to say we're going to become net zero emitters when everybody wants to burn more electricity, keep air conditioning on 24 hours a day, have 2 or 3 cars, bigger homes.
Energy efficiency, awareness, where is it?
Nobody, at least from what I've seen, is willing to sacrifice what they're used to in terms of standards of living. They want everybody else to contribute. It doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
If we are going to go to the future in a better way, it has to be done by industry, governments, NGOs, and of course the public, all in the same direction. And I dare to say that we should be working with the NGOs.
I agree.
People think that we're against each other. I want my children, who are 23 and 25 years old, to live in a better world than the one that I grew up in.
Yeah.
When you go to a dinner party and you tell young kids today that you work in the oil and gas industry, they look at you in the eye and say, well, you're the devil. You're the one that's trying to find. Well, actually not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about who's consuming.
Exactly. We're the devils.
So nobody's the devil here.
Yeah, yeah.
It is, but this is a message that needs to be clearly understood by everyone. We all need to change.
True. True.
We don't. It's not enough to demonize the oil and gas industry as the problem creator.
I think you stress on a very, very important angle that nobody actually is. Everybody's talking about strategies, policies, decision making, companies, politics, continents. Yes, but exactly. People that are using that energy. They don't know anything about COP26, COP27, COP29. They don't know anything about these decisions, and they don't even know why why the climate change is affecting them, which is another important factor. So I think the idea of awareness and getting them involved, like energy efficiency awareness, is huge, and it should be something that everybody talks about. All industries should be working on together.
So you're absolutely correct. And beyond that, there's hundreds of millions of people that still don't have access to electricity.
Absolutely.
Let alone energy efficiency.
Yeah.
So we can't, as I said before, we can't tell them, sorry guys, you can't have home with electricity 24 hours a day. They're expecting to be able to live under better standards. And it's our duty, it's our obligation to bring the world to the same level. Because ESG has three components: environment, of course, social responsibility.
Yes.
So this is the responsibility of us as executives of the industry, of governments.
Yes.
It's our social responsibility. I mean, we employ more than 1,500 people.
Yeah.
Energean, in the place we operate. We give back to the community as much as we can.
Yeah.
That's our social impact.
True.
To countries. We bring security of supply, affordable gas, continuously available gas,
yeah,
to the places we operate. That is a huge contribution to the governments, the countries, the people in the countries we operate.
I agree.
Some governments understand it. Some hide behind the facts today and prefer to import the gas rather than produce it.
Yeah.
Because that sounds nicer as a strategy. And I think that is something that politicians need to change. And I understand that they're very experienced in taking the right political decisions, and far from me to give advice to politicians about what to do in politics. But we have to be honest with each other. We have to be honest with the people. The world needs gas. The world will continue to need gas. If we hide behind the facts, we're just making our countries dependent on situations like the one we live in today. And if you read the news today, everybody is expecting that there's going to be an intervention by Russia into the Ukraine.
Exactly.
Will it happen? Will it not happen? I don't know, and it's not for me to say.
True.
But these are geopolitical events that have a huge impact on the security of supply of countries. In my home country in Greece, yesterday there was an emergency meeting to see what the country is going to do.
What's the alternative?
What's going to happen if we have no gas?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We're going to shut down everybody's electricity supply? Imagine those youngsters, if you tell them you can't charge your phone tonight because we have no electricity. And you can't go on Instagram for 24 hours a day.
That's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
So I think we all have to accept the fact that everything has to be happening in steps.
True.
In cooperation. We need cooperation with governments, NGOs, public, to get to the final stage of living in a better planet.
I agree. Mathios, thank you so much for your insights, your experience, your analysis, and how things, your vision and forecast of how we should see things being practical, slow down, understand the needs. Everything you've mentioned, I think, will be a great view for our viewers to understand more about this specific topic. Being a major player in the Mediterranean, in the natural gas supply, we thank you so much for supporting Egypt. Thank you so much for always sharing with us, with Egypt Oil and Gas, your insights. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Thank you so much.